So, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the renowned Sergio Aragones.
Oh my God. Thank you.
But wait, there's more. This is the second year in a row that I have forgotten to give our artist their Jack Davis. So it's my pleasure right now, and if Jack would care to hop up and join us, we will we'll pass over the ceremonial shoe to Sergio. It is heavy.
It's heavy.
Got it?
But anyway, a while back we went out to California to Sergio had an honor given to him, and I was awarded one of the first trophies. And this thing is heavy, I mean really heavy, but Sergio's trophy was very, very heavy, and he designed it himself and made it that heavy, I guess. I don't know.
Perfect.
But anyway, you take this and wear it.
I will. Thank you, Jack. I will have to look for another one so I can wear both of them. It would be silly wearing one Warachi and one of these, but it is wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's great. It is amazing. It seems just like yesterday. I was raised in Mexico. I was born in Spain. And because of the Spanish Civil War, my family moved to France. And I went to school to France. And then from France, we moved to Mexico. So I grew up in Mexico. And one of the things that happened is that because I didn't speak Spanish, I spoke French, I was at home all the time. I didn't want to go out and meet the kids because they made fun of my accent, which now is the Spanish accent when I speak English, but I have always have an accent no matter where I am. So I spend a lot of time at home and drawing. I love to draw. My father used to say that when they went visit somebody, they will just take out a couple of pencils and paper and they put me behind a sofa. And I stayed there the whole party or the whole time, just drawing all the time. And I love to draw since a very young age. I love to watch cartoons. So everything influences you. I love to tell stories. I love to tell stories when I was a kid. From the school to the house, on the bus, I will sit there and all my colleagues, little guys, I'm talking elementary, almost second grade, they will sit there and I will tell stories until it was time for me to get out of the bus, and then next day the same thing, I will continue. So I love to tell stories and to draw them. And then it is the moment, like many other cartoonists, I'm telling the story of every cartoonist that is here, is that when you discover other cartoons, and that is an indescribable moment. When you get other cartoons, and that's exactly not what you want to do, and so you start copying them. And in Mexico, we copy cartoons from Argentina, from Mexico, and of course, the American cartoons translated into Spanish from the dailies. So you do that, you continue going to school. You're the guy who in school who's always making the drawings and never paying attention to class. But I learned how to pay attention as I was drawing and drove the teachers crazy because they said, Sergio, what I just said. And I will tell her, they go, oh no. They get so frustrated. And I remember when they say, when was your first time you make money cartooning? Well, I was in the third grade. And the teachers in Mexico, it was more or less everything that was printed on a book, history, biology, everything, just learn this chapter, and the homework is you bring it over written. So you develop how you write and everything, but there always was a little space that you have to make a drawing. And many of the kids didn't know how to draw, so they will come to me and say, Sergio, will you draw that? And so I had a line before class, and I charged him like a centavo, which is less than a tenth of a penny. So that was my really first monies on drawing. But the first thing I bought, I still remember, was a bullfighting game. It was like little lead figures, and that box was the ring. So I arrived home, and my mother wanted me to return it because she thought I stole it, because she didn't give me the money for it. She says, no, Mom, I really work for this toy. No, let's go and return it. So she took me to the store. No, he bought it. It was that. So that was my first money. But the real true as a professional cartoonist is what I was in high school. I was the illustrator of the school newspaper. In those times, they had this mimeograph that when you draw it, it had all kinds of hairs and smelled like crazy. And when it got printed, it was so like you couldn't see anything. But one of the editors decided that it would be fun to have a mural newspaper, so everything was very clear. So we had a mural newspaper, and my editor, who was one of the girls in high school, says, why don't you sell your material? I said, no, it's not good enough. So she took it to the magazine. It was a magazine called Ha Ha, J-A, it was a humor magazine, all by American reprints. They were all American reprints. And so she took them, and the guy bought it, probably for $1 each one, something. But that was it. And from that moment, I started going to places and taking magazines and continue my education. And I remember about that age, when you're in high school, going to hotels where they sell foreign magazines, because you don't get them in los puestos, in the corners in Mexico, you don't get the foreign magazine. So we'll go to fancy hotels where they had all these American and European magazines, and the Americans I couldn't understand, nor the British. They had Punch, and I couldn't understand one joke, and neither the New Yorker, nothing. It was like, what is this? But the Europeans, because they sold to many countries altogether, they did a lot of pantomime cartoons. So I got very influenced by the European humorists, Setsu, Chaval, Moss, Bosque, the whole line of pantomime cartoonists. And from that moment, I love to do cartoons without words. Not because my English or my Spanish was bad, it's because I really tried to make cartoons for everybody without having to translate it. It's like direct to the guys. So I used to go with my other guys who like to draw, and we learn a lot watching other cartoonists. That's how you really learn. And then, because I was the son of an immigrant, you have to go to college. Parents of immigration, they have to prove that immigration worked, that you are not just living because you lost or because you couldn't take it. It's to prove that your sons are going to be better. So you have to go to college. And so I went to college. I studied architecture. And I was a cartoonist, so I had a great time in architecture because I didn't learn anything. I wasn't paying too much attention. I was cartooning and having a good time and trying to publish everything. And I remember high school was the first time I saw Mad Magazine. I couldn't read it because of the English. I didn't speak any English, but there was a few colleagues in the school that spoke English. So every time the magazine came out, I went to them, and every time they saw me, they run away because they knew they had to translate for me, and that was impossible because there was a lot of puns and a humor that you don't learn in the school. So they would run away, and I would chase them for them to translate all these jokes. So I was a fan of Mad, and it arrived a moment in Mexico that I figured it out. Well, I was working for a leading magazine now. I had a weekly page that I wanted to expand my art and learn more. So I figured out that the United States was a good place to come. So I packed all my cartoons and took the bus, went to New York, arrived with like $20. And of course, I had to start working in a coffee house because I didn't know where to go with a cartoon. So slowly you learn from people what to do. And I had made a mistake because of the lack of English and because I was kind of dopey, that the word syndicate in Mexico means union. And the union is what regulates the work. If you want to work as a mechanic, you have to belong to the union. So I figured out, well, I go to the state, belong to the union, and I can work. So I went to the syndicate to get a credential. And so I will go there, and they said, well, show us your cartoons. You know, and my cartoons in Mexico, you draw whatever piece of paper you see. So if the paper is this big and you draw this size, then you cut it up and give it to the guy who's going to put it on the magazine, and he measures it and print it. So when I brought my cartoon, there were all little pieces of paper in the syndicate with no order, not a theme. So I was rejected by every syndicate because they didn't have no material there. And I was so offended because I thought I was a professional cartoonist and I needed my credentials as part of the union, as part of the syndicate, until a cartoonist called Mark Gerbert, who works for the New Yorker. I met him in a party in the village. This was 1962. I explained to him and says, oh man, you're so wrong. This is not how this works. If you want to syndicate a piece, it has to have a character. Like when you see the strips on the newspapers, they belong to a syndicate, but it's not a credential to work in that newspaper. It's the character that they have syndicated. And you have a lot of single guys. You have to go every Wednesday. In New York, all the magazine cartoonists take a batch of cartoons every Wednesday. You go to a magazine, you leave an envelope with your cartoons. The editor looks at them, and next week you arrive and you pick the envelope and you look, and if you have a sale, it will indicate, we like this cartoon, remade it, or a few changes, or it's fine as it is. And then you change it, take that one, leave a new batch, go to the next magazine, leave a new batch. And he explained me all that, so I figured out, well, that makes a lot of sense. And then I figured out, well, why should I go Wednesday? I'm going to go Tuesday. Like this guy get a little advantage of the other guys. And it did work for a while, because I will arrive and says, I'm from Mexico. Oh, welcome. Oh, I love Mexico. I've been in Tijuana, blah, blah, blah. So they would look at the cartoons, and some of them, they would look at it and says, this is very weird. You should go to Mad Magazine. And well, thank you, but I went back again with a new cartoon to another magazine, and says, weren't you here last week? He says, yeah. Are you planning to stay? Well, yeah, well, come Wednesdays like everybody else. You know? You're not that special. So I start doing the rounds, and sold a few cartoons. But all of them had the same thing, you know, go to Mad. And I was terrified of going to Mad Magazine because I knew Mad. They didn't have cartoon guys. They had satire, the movies, the television, whatever was happening. They were complete stories. There was not just gags. And I had gags. So I went knowing that that was it, that they were not going to take me. So I arrived, and the secretary, Ms. Orlando, look at me, what do you want? You know, so the first thing that occurred to me was Antonio Proillas, who was the guy who drew Spy vs. Spy. I said, yeah, just a minute. And he comes out. This is a Cuban fellow, you know, very friendly. And I introduced myself. I'm Sergio Aragones from Mexico. My brother. And says, oh, that's terrific. He says, well, will you introduce me to the Mad people? He said, well, all this in Spanish. You have to introduce yourself because I don't speak any English either. You know? That was it. So the editor came out, Jerry DeFuccio, Jerry, dear friend. They look at the cartoons, and he brought them in. And Antonio, when he introduced me to Jerry, he introduced me as his brother. Hey, my brother from Mexico, my brother. And so they keep calling me Mr. Proillas. And I kept saying Aragones, but that didn't mean anything to them, so they keep calling me Proillas all the time. So every time they say Proillas, I say Aragones. So for them, it was like, thank you, or something, I don't know. But the truth is that they keep calling me that the whole time. So then the editor came out and says, look, we decided to buy a few cartoons to make a page spread, you know, like a two-pager, who was a mad look at the United States space effort, with just jokes about astronauts. So they figured it out that they put all the cartoons together and had a two-pager. Well, I was delighted, because by then the cartoons that I had been getting was like $5. And now they were offering me $50 for art and $50 for a script. So it was like about $100 a page. I'd never seen so much money in my life together. So they bought 2 pages, and Jerry Fujo says, well, come again, bring more material. And I said, well, like what? He says, well, you have a couple of jokes about motorcycle cops. He says, made an article about motorcycle cops. So I left, and I went to this place I was staying. I wouldn't even call it a hotel. It was like, So I spent the whole night thinking jokes and drawing them. And next morning, I was with about 40 jokes about motorcycle cops. Well, Nick Meglin comes in and says, yeah, what are you doing here? He says, well, Jerry told me to bring an article and I have it, you know. Well, they couldn't believe it because it takes a month for the guys to write an article. So I was there, so they bought it. They bought 2 pages more. And I says, okay, I'm going to come and bring another one, you know. Calm down, we have. But Jerry invited me to stay at the office. I didn't have really no friends, nobody. And I spent the whole time at the office looking at the old issues of Mad and the originals. I will go to the drawers and open them. They were the magnificent pieces by Jack, things by all the incredible Mort Drucker. And they were fantastic, being able to see the line and everything. And I will ask them if I could stay overnight. So Jerry said, sure, just don't touch anything, and we're going to lock you in. So don't go out because the alarm would ring. So I would spend the whole night in Mad Magazine just looking at cartoons. But I was a little afraid because they didn't want any more gags. So I was reading in the magazine, and there were these little sayings on the borders. And when Jerry came, I asked, what this means? And he says, well, have you read so-and-so book? No. Well, then you will understand it. And what this means? He says, well, did you see the movie so-and-so? No. Well, then you won't understand it either. I said, well, that's ridiculous. And, well, I know that I don't understand it because I'm not from here, but if I don't understand it, many other people probably don't understand it either. So I figured out, if I do cartoons that size, and without words, everybody will understand it. So I suggested it to Jerry and said, no, that doesn't sound too good. He says, but this makes a lot of sense. So Nick said, well, try it and do something. So what I did is I drew them the real size and pasted them up in top of the signs and went to Al Felsing, who was the editor, and says, look. And the guy goes, that's what? Oh, no, go from the beginning, look. And he will go and he couldn't see them, you know. I had to point at them, you know. Said, and he thought it was a good idea. So he said, well, we'll run them until you run out of ideas. Well, that was their first mistake because I'm still doing them. You know? Never run out of any ideas. And there's been tens of thousands of them. You know? So, and sometimes you repeat, but not because I wanted to repeat them. Sometimes you forget that you did it, you know, it happens so many times. And they say, oh, you did that one. But they don't choose all of them, the ones I do. But I always don't like to have those republished or resend to them. I like every month to create new jokes because that's how my brain works. And that's my life exercise, is thinking every day about cartoons, new cartoons. So then I have the marginals. I said, well, do this issue and do the next issue because we have 2 articles now, so I did another issue. And that said, Sergio, why don't you go home? You know, so I figured out that they could use cover ideas. So next day, of course, I come with a whole package of cover ideas without really human doing stupid things. And they bought a few. So the issue that came out, I think, was Mat 76. I had a 2-page article, the marginals, and a cover. So same thing with the next issue. So I was there to stay, you know, so it was great. And I went to, like a few days later, I went to a party in the village to meet my friend cartoonist, Mort Gerber, who had explained me how to do things. You know, says, hey, how you doing? Have you sold a cartoon? Says, well, I've sold this to Mad Magazine and to this and that. I almost fainted. He just, what? And I've been trying to work and sell cartoons for 5 years, and you already arrive and you're there, you know. So that was it. That was the beginning, and it was very auspicious and very wonderful. The Mad people became my best friends. It was a family. It was wonderful. They treat me like a son, because they were all old, like Jack Davis, which is very old. But they treat me like a son, and it was wonderful. They tried to tell me jokes, but I couldn't understand them because they were puns. And in Mexico, we don't use puns because it's phonetical, the language. So every time they made a pun, I go, huh? Puns are very hard for Spanish people to understand. We can get them, but it was wonderful. And after a little while, everything became not routine, but a regular job. I went to Europe for a couple of years because DC Comics and Mad were kind of close together, and the same building, the same company. And I always wanted to do comic books. I loved comic books. I loved them in Mexico. And not that much superheroes, but adventure and humor. And humor, there was that much of humor. There were teenager cartoons, and there was funny animal cartoons, but there was not really humor cartoons. So when I arrived to Europe, I realized that a lot of comics were in humor, and that the cartoonists owned the material, which I have found by many of the other artists in the United States, that the company owned the rights and the copyrights, and the artists were not the owners of the material. But I learned in Europe that the artists owned the material, and that it was possible to do humor comics. So after a couple of years publishing in Europe and meeting cartoonists, and I went back to the States trying to do comic books in humor with me owning the material, which all the publishers laugh at my face. No, that will never happen, you know. And so when I created Gru the Wanderer, who was a very stupid barbarian, you saw that guy running with a sword. It took me 10 years to have it published because they didn't want to concede the rights, the copyright to me, and I was not going to give it away to any company. So I waited a little longer, 10 years before a company called Pacific Comics decided, hey, we're wasting a lot of people, that they have new material and they don't want to give it away. So they opened a company called Pacific Comics, and Kirby, Mike Grell, Neil Adams, and many other cartoonists went to Pacific and started publishing comics owned by ourselves, you know, with Gru. And of course, when Marvel and DC saw that, they changed their minds and started opening the field for other cartoonists to publish there. So I had a chance to publish. So I started doing comics, which was great, and continued doing Mad and doing freelance work, publishing books. And so it's been a great career on that aspect, on the technical part of it. But the best part of all of it had to do with the Mad trips. That was, Bill Gaines was a very strange man, you know, obese with a big beard and long hair. When we met him, he wasn't like that. He had a crew cut. But he was a very peculiar man. He will invite you for dinner and open a bottle of wine of Chateau for $100 with no problem. Invite you to the best restaurant and spend a lot of money on any of us. But when he came to the office, he was so strict that he will go around and says, who made this call to New Jersey? And he says, well, I think I did. One of the artists would say, well, you owe me 22 cents. He had to be perfect, all his accounting. And, he was very cheap. I don't know how to say it. You know. He was kind of cheap, but he was very generous when he came to invite his friends. So he decided to take us to trips around the world, all paid, for all the artists, the writers, the editors, the art director, the accountant, the lawyer. And it was great. 10 days, all paid. We had a great time. We had to share rooms. Jack was my roommate in Switzerland. So it was great. So you not only met your colleagues, they were like brothers because now you're even sharing rooms. You know? So it was great. So we went all over. So probably we did over 30, 40 trips overseas. Went to Russia, went to Tahiti, went to African safari, Morocco, Spain, Scandinavia, England, all over the place, Mexico. And Mexico was the greatest trip in the world because I organized it. You know, Bill Jones says, we're thinking of going to Mexico. I said, well, that sounds terrific. Can I help you? He says, well, why don't you organize it? I don't know anybody there. So I went 1 week before and planned the whole trip for all the guys. So that was great. We arrived to Mexico, and I had my mother cooking a big paella dish for all the guys. And that was one of probably my most emotional moment in my life, because I had my family from Mexico and my family from the States in my home, and my mother cooking. And one of my memories, it starts sort of like drizzling, it was Jack, I guess, not only him, but everybody here in Athens, they're so gentleman, and he was a total Southern gentleman. He was there with an umbrella, covering my mom when she was cooking, you know. And I have that image so clear in my head. They got all drunk, by the way, you know. It was, I bought a thing called un porrón, which is like a glass container that you pour wine from the thick part, and then you go, and the wine goes in, and then you go like that, and it stops. So I put one for everybody. Oh, no, but the best part. Bill Gates was a wine connoisseur. Right? By now, he was knew everything about wine. So I organized a wine tasting for him. But sadly, the Mexican wines are not the best in the world. Kind of pretty sorrow state. So, but, and your house in Mexico, when you enter, it's a big garage, and then it was the garden where we had put tables there, and my mommy was cooking over there. But on the patio, I had put long table and bought like 3 bottles of every Mexican brand that I could find, and rented all these glasses, and the waiters all in white. So when they got out of the bus, Bill Gates was the first one, and the waiter, I told them how to do the whole thing, you know, and they put him and they start testing, and Bill was all like, okay, went to the next one, and you know, and all the guys in the back, they were so impressed that they were, oh, this is delicious. Oh, those times, who knew about wines? But by the 4th wine, Bill Gates was laughing so hard. He was going, he thought it was the best joke in the world. Well, then we put all this wine on the porrones, and everybody was saying, well, everybody left that house with all that shirt full of wine. And it was a great adventure. But that day, before going to my house, I have arranged a bullfight. That's when, I don't know if you saw on the poster that it's a drawing that I did for Jack, but like he's fighting a bull and this, and well, the bulls are about like this, you know, they are not that big, they are like, okay, like that. They are about 6 months old, they are not that big. But if they hit you, they go poing, you just go, ow, and that's it, you don't fall down. So there's a professional fighter there and teach you how to take the cape and cover your body, and when the bull comes out, you take him away from your body and pass it around. So the bull will follow the cape. And so a few basic instructions. And they ask, who's the most macho of all the guys? But it's also a restaurant. So there were like 5 of us, Meglin, Cocker, David, myself, Meglin. And the rest were upstate having dinner. So they were like the public watching this corrida. So they says, well, we're going to throw you a very large bull, but don't be worried, you know. Just follow the thing with a cape. Jack again, ready, and says, you get on your knees and wait for the bull to come out. And the door was over there, and usually we knew the bulls were this high, but the eyes were about this high. Those ferocious eyes looking, and banging on the door. And when the door opened, the donkey comes out, goes around Jack, and goes back in, you know. And he was there with a cake waiting for the big bulls. That was a lot of fun. We had a great time. Then we went to the pyramids. We went to Acapulco. We went to Xochimilco, which is that's a fascinating place. Xochimilco is what Mexico used to be in the 1400s. It was a lake and channels and islands. And there's a place left, which is Xochimilco. And then you go there, and of course it's full of tourists, and they take you in little boats all decorated with flowers. That said Margarita and Viva Mexico and Lupita, all made with flowers. So the one that arranged said, bleep you Bill. You know? Well, all the tourists that were there, they take a second look, and they couldn't believe it. They were trying to take pictures of that boat with the flowers with a big insult to Bill. Bill, again, was laughing his head off. So it was a magnificent trip. But all of them were like that. The African trip was sensational also. And in one of the instances, Jack was the roommate of Paul Cocker. And we left the bar, you know, the dinner, and we walking back. Beautiful, starry night, wonderful stars. And we were staying, I think it was in a motel, in one of the camps. And there were like tents. We were living on tents. And Paul Cocker was inside reading, and you could see his silhouette because the light was right in the middle of the 2 cots. So Jack comes and approaches the side of the tent and goes, and starts scratching the thing. Well, Paul Cocker went, started like, and didn't move for about 2 minutes, just like that. And then he relaxed a little and went back. He did it again. And going like that with the things on the thing, and Cocker then. Well, we couldn't stop laughing about that. You know. They were all the time having jokes. In Greece, always they put us in jail because John Putnam and myself, we were like this, and we went, okay, and going like that. They put a guard after us to follow us, the whole place. But this was in the 70s. It was a different time. But we had great anecdotes. I think if you read a book by, not the Big Battle, by Frank Jacobs, about the life of Bill Gaines, if you can obtain it. It's a very interesting book. It will tell about everything I just said, but well written and well said. You know, so, in Italy. Do you mind if I take this anecdote? It has nothing to do with cartooning. In Italy, that was very funny. We were in Florence watching these magnificent doors on this beautiful temple, and they were on the steps of the church looking, and we were with a guy looking, and I wanted to take a picture, so I go back, and I want them, all of them in the picture, they were surrounded by other tourists. So I arrived to the corner where everybody fit, and there comes a demonstration with signs, and they were people who work on a shoe factory asking for more salaries. So I went to the girl and took one of the signs and went like this to the front of the mad guys, and I started insulting them. Porco Americano, go back home, filthy gringos, you know. And when the guys knew me, they started laughing. But all the tourists around us started running all over And then when that girl passed by, I give them, thank you very much. So I continue watching with other guys, and all the time, all over the place. We get good times, good times. But anyway, it's been terrific. It's been a great career. I have learned a lot. I'm still publishing comics, and I'm still doing math. And it's been great. If you have any questions, please butt in. You know, this is not a conference or lecture. It's a talk. So if you want to know something, throw your hand and interrupt me, and I will do. But I guess you would like to see some drawings too. You know, yeah, drawing. Oh, right here we do that. I think you press here. You go lighting. Then lights off. Lights off. Technology.
And then there you go.
And the marginals that I do, the little cartoons, and maybe here you'll see them larger, but it shows? Yeah. Usually, when you're drawing cartoons, there's a touch of how you call it, cruelty, you know. Because it's an old saying about drama is when, humor is when it happened to you, and drama is when it happened to somebody else. You know? So it's always, many people ask me, do you get letters from people who get very offended about what you do? It says, well, yeah, but that's the problem, because we're making fun of everything, and no matter what I make fun, I get a letter from somebody getting very, one of the amount of letters that we got once, I did a cartoon, very simple, and it was kind of like that, you know, and there was like a manhole open. And the only thing I drew was something like this. Well, people got so offended about it, you know. I didn't mean no harm, you know. It's just part of the humor, you know. But it goes like this about every subject that we do. It's always a little cruelty involved in it. Many things are changing a lot, you know, for cartoonists, that they're disappearing. Telephone booths, kids selling newspapers, all that is gone. So because the pantomime cartoon has to do a lot with cliches, things that we already know, that we can see it at one glance and enjoy it, you know. And then there's always the silly cartoon. Who has no malice or no just silly, you know. It fills a corner. No, it's just a little pirate. I'm doing it fast so you don't get bored waiting to put all that. Oh, I have tons of pirates. Give me any subject.
Acrobats.
Acrobats? The people who do all these things are acrobats. Silly. And then because of the length of the marginal, sometimes you come with silly cartoons like we're talking about the circus, and you take the liberty and do something like this, you know, because of the long line, you know, you go and then you go like this. You know, it just makes it a nice little humorous illustration, you know. I use a fountain pen and I use India ink, and I do it that way.
Do you pencil layout first?
Very basic, very basic. With the marginals, just you put a little dot where you want your character to be, and I draw them just like this. In the comics, you have to be a little more accurate, because when somebody's shaking hands or anything, you want the hands to touch, or you want the hand to hit somebody, then you do it, you know. But it's a very light pencil, just to indicate position, mostly more than anything else. This is what's very important in cartooning, that eye is looking at the characters, because you know, this like aiming. And we have tons of it. Wow. You just get like, what one, you know? Animals. Huh? I didn't hear. A giraffe? Sure. Oh! Sorry about that. I forgot. Race cars. You know what the problem is doing this is that I don't want to draw the joke before I finish, because then you laugh then the rest of the cartoon becomes obsolete, you know. So I have to draw. And it is wow. Okay, any other subject?
The shadows.
Oh, the shadows. This is a good, interesting series of cartoons that I did. It was like. This series I did a few years ago. And the thing with the shadows is that the shadows were like this. Ninja. With the swords in the back. Well, I don't do political cartoons. So. A cartoonist. A cartoonist nowadays. Baseball. Okay, what about baseball? Let's see. Ha. Let's see, that stumped me right there. the uniforms don't look like that anymore. Sorry about that. Yeah. What? A bulldog. Ah, the bulldog. No, I won't fall on that trap. I know. Oh, we have some here. I can copy this one. Also in golf, we do a lot of cartoons with golf. Let me give a break a minute. Gru is a barbarian that has a sword, you know. Alfred Newman. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Would you like?
Anybody have any questions?
Yes. Yes, he asked me about Ruperto, the dog, the companion dog of Gru, the Wanderer, my barbarian. When I created Gru in the beginning, for the first, 30 issues or so, he was by himself, but always were thought balloons. But my thought is, well, if he's so stupid, how come he's always thinking? So we need a companion for him. So if I give him a human, then Gru will become a second banana because it's so stupid that the other character will become the principal character, or dead because he will kill him. So I said, well, a dog is always a very good companion. First I thought of a mastiff. And I said, well, two stupids together don't match. It has to be like a smarter dog. And I was thinking, what type of dog? And I'm looking, and there's my dog. I said, hey. I drew him, his name was Ruperto. So I drew him, and my big mistake is that the dog is like polka dots. So every time I do the drawing, I have to do like 20 dots on the poor animal. But he was based on my dog, and because he was a Queensland killer, he lived 22 years. It was just amazing. And every year, well, he's still alive. Yeah, must be something strange. Are you alive? Strange animal, yeah. Yeah.
Back when I was a kid, and it's just such a kick to be able to tell people I've done work for MAD. And I just want to encourage people to go out and buy MAD, because I don't know if you know, general populace knows that MAD Kids has gone under, and
Yeah.
MAD's gone to a quarterly.
Yes.
And it's the icon of comic parody and social satire. So it kills me to see that, whether I'm an illustrator or not, and so I would just encourage people to get out there and try to, the interest. I know people of my generation, grew up with MAD, and it just seems like, this generation doesn't see it as much anymore, to me anyway. But anyway, thank you. I just want to say thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. And what he just said is so true about the universality of being a cartoonist. Once you're a cartoonist, you become a universal fraternity. I knew the work of a cartoonist in Brazil called Ziraldo. And I took the phone when I was visiting Brazil, called it, and said, Ziraldo, my name is Sergio. And said, hey, Sergio. And I love your work. He says, I love your work. Come home, and we were like brothers, because also he was the kid behind the sofa. And so no matter where you go, if you're a cartoonist, you have a very good friend. Yes.
Speaking of what you talked about with the magazines going under, the newspapers going under,
Yes.
do you see future for people with that company?
Oh, more than ever, more than ever. Yes, more than ever. The only thing, it won't be on paper. You see, because every animation, every computer, every creator needs cartooning. Cartooning is there. Cartooning doesn't disappear. What changes is the medium. See, if you love paper, which a lot of us do, you will miss it. But a kid that's 13 won't miss paper for anything. Paper for him is toilet paper. He is done to electronics. That smell of paper that we so romantically miss. What does he care? He loves that. That's what he's going to miss. But we need cartoonists to do cartoons for telephones. Europe is very advanced on that, so is Japan. There's a lot of animations that go into little telephones. And if you put YouTube, there's a lot of cartoons that people are doing. There's always a need for cartooning. Paper, sure, it's gone. We, the older people, will miss it. But the young people won't miss it at all. But they always be magazines, and they always be things, but it will be a little more exclusive. It won't be the general way of entertainment. Because if you're a 12-year-old and you love comics, if you go to watch the Fantastic Four in the movies, they lift bridges, and they put them in another island, and they fly, and they transform into other things. You look at a comic and nothing's happened. Hey, move, move. It doesn't. So a young kid, this is obsolete. To us, it's not. But they'll be space for cartoonists forever. And the comics be more exclusive, but they always be there. They are not disappearing completely. Yes, sir.
Sergio, well, I've read the story that you wrote about, but I was hoping you would just share the story with the audience about how you killed Marty Felt.
I did a comic book called Solo for DC Comics, and they were personal stories. And one of them was titled, I Killed Marty Feldman. And it was true, that story, not that I killed Marty Feldman, but it's a very quick story. I was in Mexico filming a movie. And the reason I was doing that movie is because the producer was a friend of mine, and many months before, we were going to shoot the movie in some place in Eastern Europe. The thing fell out, we did it in Mexico. But I have already signed a contract, so it's a long story, but the fact is that I was in Mexico doing this movie. And I was a bad guy. I was a villain. So I was dressed as a military guy with a shorter mustache, and a gun. And I was walking, and they told me that they were shooting Yellow Beard. And among the actors of Yellow Beard was Marty Feldman, and I'm a super fan of Marty Feldman. You know Mary Feldman is the actor who was on Young Frankenstein and they had this very strange eye. So I finished shooting and I'm walking out and there he is. So I go to him, Marty, and he got so scared because I was dressed like a cop, you know. And he looked at me like that. He was a very short man, you know. No. I'm not an actor. I'm an actor. I'm not a cop. I'm a cartoonist. And I made a fool of myself, you know, like blah, 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 blah. And the guy was just backing up like this, totally scared, you know. I said, the gun is not real. Ah! So, and I figured out, I'll talk to you tomorrow, you know. So I said, no, this time I want to change and put a normal clothing and I go and I will explain myself because I made just a total fool out of myself. So I asked the director to let me go earlier so I could go and change. So where are you going? He says, I'm going to see Marty Feldman. Says, oh, you didn't hear? He died last night. So he had died that night. He had a heart attack. Yeah. So I titled my comic like I killed Marty Feldman. But had nothing to do with me. You know? If you find it, probably you can find it in eBay. This is the issue. You know? But that was one of the stories. Thank you for asking. Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about your creative process, and I guess one aspect also in terms of how you give yourself a break and your cycle in terms of generating your ideas and also recovering?
Well, the thinking process is something that, because I have been doing it for so long, I almost don't know what it happened. But I know that it's a routine. But the more you do it, the better you become at it, and easier. It's a process of analyzing a situation and trying to find the humorous side of it, the absurd part of things. So many times when I have to think marginals, I do exactly what I was doing with you guys. I think myself a subject, and then I try to make something absurd out of that subject. And my problem is, every time I think of one, oh, I've done that. I've done that, because I've been doing it for 40-some years. But suddenly, boom, a good one comes. And then I write it, I don't draw it. When I have a lot of them, then I draw them so they are spontaneous on the drawing. So I didn't have to redraw it again. With the stories, it's the same thing. I just think story. Like anybody could think story. Yours will be bad because you haven't done it every day for 40 years. But if you do it every day, starting right now, I guarantee that in 40 years you'll be very good. No, but with practice you'll become very good. It's like the piano, same process. If you love the piano, you'll get fascinated by these lines. And if you have a teacher that can teach you how to do it, it's better. And if you practice, you'll become excellent. And so it's a process of doing it. What I do is I wake up late and spend the day thinking ideas. I sit by the pool or by the garden, I lay down and just think. My wife sees me and says, Sergio, you're doing nothing, come and fix this. I'm working, honest. Sometimes I'm not, but I pretend I'm working. I don't have to do the kitchen or anything, but it is a process that you think with a little piece of paper and start writing ideas. And you go on and on. I'm writing right now the introduction for a book about Al Williamson. Well, sometimes I was asleep and I thought a perfect way to get up and I write these thoughts because they come in the moment you least expect it, because it's an association of ideas. And the drawing is very simple because, again, I've been doing it for so long. What I do is, once I have all the ideas or the story and the pages I have to do for the comics, I sit after a nice lunch or anything, about 4 o'clock in the evening, and put the TV on and start drawing. The TV is a companionship with that. You don't have to answer back to it. It's there. Sometimes, but I watch movies that I already seen, so I don't get very intrigued about it. And then you're drawing, and then you look and it's a different movie. You say, oh, what happened here? Time flies. And you sit there and draw. And the advantage is that when you're drawing, you look up, your eyes get away from the paper, relaxes a little, the hands stop for a minute, and you don't get cramps. So it's a good way to do it. I cannot work with music because I love music. And as soon as I go, I start completely getting into the music. But with the movies, it's easy. And I do it until I get tired, physical tired, like at 6 o'clock in the morning or 4. Oh, my back. And then I go to sleep. So it's always a piece of paper with notes in it. And that's basically the process. It's doing it like a train. If you don't stop the train, it just goes. It'd be very hard to stop the train and then try to start it all over. But if you are writers, you know that you have to write every day. Even if you don't have nothing to write. It has to be a stream of consciousness, anything. Write about your house. My walls are white. But you have to write at least an hour or 2 hours every day, no matter what happens. And if you are a cartoonist, you have to draw at least 2 hours a day, no matter what you're drawing, even if it's garbage. But your brain has to get used to what your hand is indicated to him. Oh, there, yeah, I'm talking too long. Any other question? Yes?
Does the day ever go by that you don't draw?
No. No. No, I draw every day. And I think every day. And when you get tired of thinking, you draw. And when you get tired of drawing, you think. When I get tired of math, I draw groove. When I'm tired of groove, I do math. So it's never a moment that you say, hey, I cannot do it, Yes?
Can you tell us a little bit about how Plop came about?
Plop was a magazine that was published by DC Comics on the 70s. I was called by Joe Orlando, and the publisher then was Carmine Infantino. And they wanted to do a humor magazine, a humor comic. And they called me, and I said, sure, I would love to work on it. And so we planned it on the coffee house. And the name came because Carmine said, well, how we call it? I said, the name is of no importance. Whatever we call it, it'll be fun, And says, well, what do you mean any name? What do we have? We call it Plop? I said, sure, Plop's a good name. And I started drawing plops, little plop things that plop. And he loved it, and that was the name. He came just on the coffee. So I told him, anything you want to call it, zap, boom, tap, anything. If the magazine is good, it will go it. So the fact that we call it, and it ran for a few issues, and it stopped publishing because of bad sales. The sales were 80,000 copies, which right now there's not a comic that publishes 80,000 issues. If they publish 10, they'll be very happy. But that's when it stopped. Yes, ma'am. Sure. I want to go into the internet. I'm very ignorant on computers, so I'm trying to learn that. But I have a few projects that there's always projects. I have a whole list of them. Every time you want a project, I have to do that, and you write it. And then you have a list, and then you watch it on TV, and you say, oh, that's been done. And then they give you a book, oh, that's been done. I wanted to do the Old Testament with Mark Evanier. In humor, without being offensive, the way that the Simpsons deal with religion. It's something that is benign, without insulting anybody, but applying a sense of humor. I was thinking, well, maybe we'll give God a wife, which is the one that decides how to create everything, and he just obeys like a good husband, but without being offensive, just on the good way. And then we call the publisher and says, what are you talking about? Robert Crumb just made the Old Testament, and it's just going out very soon. So there it is. Another cartoonist got the idea before, and there was another project. So I have a lot of it. There's not a lifetime of them that you can do. Yes? I met her during a cartoon. I was hired by a company called George Slaughter, did television, and he did a show called Lil Labner in Dog Patch Today. So I was hired to do the sets on the Al Cap way, which is very cartoony, So it was a television show, it was a musical. So I had to do all the sets that you could cut from one to another, very comfortable. And she was stupefying Jones. So she stupefied me. So that was it. From the moment on, I was totally taken off, and that's how we met. Thanks to cartoons, too.
Thank you all very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.